group of people. Thank you very much. Coach, would you like to just open up the questions?
Yeah, let's just get right into it.
Okay, we'll go Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Brian, I know you probably haven't spent a lot of time watching that film already, but as you think about what Brian's going to have to deal with over the next month, you want things to go with this offensive game plan. Have you guys started mapping out how you would like things to go over the next 30 months in terms of his involvement and maybe who's calling plays when you guys take the field for these?
Yep. Met on it today, and he's going to continue with the same plan. I do think having a 3-4 weeks to prepare for the game will be beneficial, and so we'll still have everybody involved with it, and we're going to work hard to put a game plan together and make sure that we're putting our guys in the best position to be successful.
Pat Murphy, 24/7.
Ryan, a lot of the guys, the players last night were talking about sort of beating themselves, mistakes they made, just feeling like it was more them than necessarily Indiana, while giving Indiana credit. Now that you've watched the film a little bit, how much do you see that and stuff that can be corrected here before you go on this run, and how much is it things that maybe were more what Indiana was doing and defenses that are more difficult?
I think anytime you're playing this time of year, whether it's in the Big Ten championship or in the playoffs, you're playing against good teams. So we never want to not give credit to our opponent. They played a good game, but it's clear that we were not at our best, coaches and players. So we need to be moving forward, and this is certainly an opportunity for us to learn from that game. And when you leave it to one play in all three phases, you put yourself at risk. And the idea of leaving no doubt did not happen tonight. So we're gonna make sure that we get on the film, and certainly you said haven't watched it. I've watched it all a bunch. Didn't sleep well last night. Have a sick stomach at my feeling over the game, and so do these guys here. But once you wake up the next morning and figure out what the new mission is, then it gives you some direction that way. But we'll use this as motivation.
Jeremy Birmingham.
All right, obviously you haven't lost a lot of games as a head coach. It seems like, at least from the outside looking in, that a lot of the times the losses sort of follow a similar script. Is there, and you often talk about scheme versus personnel versus execution, is there one of those things that you feel like is a recurring issue over the years that maybe you can pinpoint or say, like, this is something that's regularly happened when we've had these sort of performances?
Well, I think we did have one turnover on offense, and we really didn't strike any balance. I think that's probably one of the things. We called 35 passes and 22 runs, and didn't really get the run game going. We had 5 sacks, and then third down in red zone certainly was not good. And so when you're not winning in the situations, you don't have balance. That is a recipe for not a very good day on offense. So I know everybody in the program is looking at it to figure out how they can get better, but we need to have balance, that's for sure.
Andy Andrews, Lebanon Warriors.
So you mentioned the sacks, thoughts on the offensive line's performance and just what maybe needs to improve in pass protection?
Well, they have a good defensive front, and it's always a combination of things. We can do a better job of designing some plays to get out of the quarterback's hand a little bit faster. We were looking to push the ball down the field early in the game, and we broke down a little bit, but that's everybody involved. So we'll look to get better at it and make sure that we're in a situation again that we're putting our guys in the best position to be successful, but at the same time, our guys got to do their job as well. So everyone's looking at it and making sure that we're doing our part to do a better job.
Austin Ward, 97.1.
Right, when you look at just structuring, we said it's just happened, you just got the matchups and destination, but what's the practice schedule look like? What's the scouting look like with 2 opponents for the next couple of weeks? What's the plan moving forward here?
Yep, I went through with the team here just about half an hour ago. The goal is to be at maximum speed, effort, violence, really peaking at the end of the month here, because it's a significant layoff. So the first thing we want to do is the guys who have played a significant amount of football, let them get their legs underneath them. But also, as we get into next week, make sure that they're keeping their edge. I think that's important, because it's not like a bye week, and this is a long layoff. And last year, we had the first round game, and we went right back into it and found ourselves in a rhythm. So that's something that we're really looking at hard. Visited around today with Mick and Quinn, and making sure we're putting together the right plan. Put together a really good practice schedule around Christmas. Travel down there, I believe, on the 28th, and then keep a lot of the same things as we got closer to the games we did last year. So, to answer your question, want to get the guys healthy, want to get them rested physically, mentally, emotionally. You know, a lot of guys hurt after that game. You know, they were all pissed just like all of us. But you know, you gotta wake up and move on, and you know, figure out how to get those things fixed. But then also physically. But you know, not so much that you know we lose our edge. So that's the balance that we're looking to strike here in terms of the practice schedule and how we're putting that together.
Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Having looked at the film, what do you feel like you learned from some of those red zone sequences, having been?
Well, you know, we found ourselves down in there. You know, certainly the game plan going in was that we saw some 2 and 3 tight end sets that we felt like we could get some movement down there and get the ball vertical into the end zone. And didn't have it consistently. You know, on the 3rd and 1, you know, looked, you know, or you know, a couple of things we rolled out, tried to get a couple play actions. Those weren't, you know, successful. So it was a combination of you know not you know getting enough movement in the run game and not you know executing and you know game planning well enough, I guess, and scheming it up well enough in the pass game. So you know, felt like on the 2nd, 4th down, like I mentioned to you, that we could get 3 points, get out of there, move on, maybe get a chance to win the game at the end or overtime. But when you have 2 drives that stall like that, you know, if you kick 2 field goals, you know, you win the game. If you score 1 touchdown, you win the game. Score 2 touchdowns, it's you know 24-13, and you know you're just in a whole different situation. But that's these types of games, that's these matchup games. So as coaches, we got to go in there and make sure we're putting our guys in the right situation to be successful, and then at the same time, we got to make sure that we're executing them well. So it's all the above, and that's what hurts on days like today. You know, when you feel like you came up short, and you got to go move on, take your medicine, and get it figured out.
Dom Sperry.
Coach, I know you guys are bummed out you lost. Nobody wants to win more than you guys do. With that said, you've been in this position before. There's a lot of football to go. How do you expect your club to respond now? And I don't know, what was your message to them?
Yeah, we're going to respond like men. You know, we're not going to sit around and point fingers and feel sorry for ourselves. We lost. We were not at our best. Everybody, including myself, including the coaches, everybody. And so that's what you have to do. And then you got to address what the problems are and get them fixed. You know, when you lose a game like that, you can't just you know feel sorry for yourself or you know point fingers. You have to get the issues fixed. And so certainly the red zone was one of them. Balance on offense. There's some things certainly that I know the guys on defense you know want to get addressed as well, and special teams. Now on defense, you know, I think we held them to 13 points, which is the least that's been in the last 2 years. So there was a lot of good football being played there. Now that being said, you know, the goal is to win. Remember we talked about that last year, like win the game. And, you know, there were opportunities to win the game just across the board in all 3 phases. But we certainly were not at our best, and that's the bottom line. So we need to be moving forward with the teams we're going to play, because everybody that's in this playoff are really good teams, as we know. So, you know, hopefully we're able to have a great month and prepare, and then go play this Cotton Bowl and be at our best.
Bill Rabinowitz.
Just like last year, going to the playoffs with a loss, I imagine it's a very different feeling this time. You don't feel like you have to have the kind of team meeting that you had last year. How different does it feel this year? How confident are you that you guys will be ready on New Year's Eve?
Every year is different. You know, every situation is different. This is one where you know play against a very, very good team. You know, it was 1 versus 2, and they were undefeated, and you know we feel like we sort of let it get away by not scoring late in the game, and I think that's kind of how everybody feels. You know, and again, you got to give Indiana credit. I'm not doing that, but like at the same time, we know what we're capable of, and that didn't happen. So again, got to get back to work and figure out why that happened. I think there's still a bunch of guys in this room that know we can play with anybody in the country and beat anybody in the country when we're on our game, but it's a hard reminder that when you're not on your game, you put yourself at risk, and that's exactly what happened.
Cameron T. Robinson, The Athletic.
Ryan, what was the message to Jaden and kind of your confidence level in him? Because I know you probably can utilize him a lot in the postseason, just your confidence in him going forward.
Well, it's like just like everybody else, he's got to take a hard look at it and make sure that everything that he's doing is on point.
Doug Lesmerises.
Ryan, in the moment, what was your thought process at the end of the first half when you guys had the ball? You didn't seem to go real fast. You were using the clock, and then when you went back and
rewatched the film, what were your thoughts on that strategy?
Yeah, I thought that was absolutely the right thing to do. What you're trying to do is win the, the middle eight there. And, you wanna get that thing down to 2 minutes, and we still have 3 timeouts left. So it wasn't a time management issue as much as it was, we gotta get the first down, because if we had, gone faster and not converted on that, then we would've given them more time to come down and score. So the number 1 goal was to end with the ball or points. Now, that being said, we also wanted to convert on 3rd down so that we had an opportunity to get points. But, if we're not gonna convert on 3rd down, we don't wanna give them the ball any time, certainly when we get the ball coming out at halftime. So, I think all the analytics would tell you that that's the right play, especially with 3 timeouts left, but we gotta convert. And if we don't convert, then it doesn't matter. So, that's the bottom line, and, we spent a lot of time thinking about that, making sure we're putting our guys in the best position to win the league.
Spencer Holbrook, on 3.
Yeah, Ryan, I think you guys started out 0 for 4 on 3rd down in the red zone, obviously. It seemed to be like attention to detail situations. Do you guys feel like you were well enough prepared on 3rd down in the red zone, and how much more of an emphasis do you have to put on that in the next 3 weeks to make sure that you guys are covered?
Yeah, I don't think there was anything that we did that, was unsound, but you're right, like, when you're going against good teams, you gotta be on point, and everyone's gotta do their job, all 11 guys, and it's gotta be executed at a high level, and certainly that didn't happen, so there's a lot that goes with that. We can practice it better in terms of like the looks we give, to how we install it, to, all those types of things, and then, getting our guys ready to do it, so, we put it on the coaches to make sure that our guys are better prepared to execute.
Rob Aller, far right.
Yeah, Colonel didn't get a lot of targets second half. His health update on him, is he okay? Was that just the way it worked? How's he doing?
Yeah, there were actually quite a few plays that, were designed to maybe head his way throughout the game that didn't, he designed them certain ways, and, the coverages can be, organized as such it doesn't quite get there. So, no, he's a big part of what we do, and, are those guys, in a situation where, at that game where they're ready to play, 50, 60 plays, yeah, they could do it, but it was good to also try to keep them fresh throughout the game. But, yeah, no, we were looking to target both of our guys.
Julian, 2 games in a row, early picks. What's the discussions you're having with him, other than you just can't do that?
Yeah, the one early on, he was a little bit later, that route there, based on the depth of where it was, you just have to be aware of that, and the other 8 defenders, they do a good job with their vision and break and zone, and, and I think, again, can we drill it, can we get the scout team to give a better look, that's a little faster, a little sharper, a little crisper to make them realize it, the speed of how fast it was going, yes. But after that, I thought he responded well, and did take care of the football from then on out. I know there was some sacks in there, but he did hang on to it for the most part, and, overall, I thought he played well in the game, not well enough to win, as we know, but, that certainly wasn't our issue.
Brianna McKay.
There was a couple players last night who said they felt like they were 1 block away from opening the running game. Was that something that you saw as well, and how much more do you think the running game could have done last night?
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a mixed bag. There's ones I watched where we blocked him up and got it to the unblocked hat, and he got us on the ground at like 5 or 6 yards. Then there were times where there was a couple unblocked guys, near the line of scrimmage, and so there was a combination of both of those things. So we'll keep looking at it. There was a lot of movement, and we expected that to happen in the game. So again, it's everybody's responsibility when we look at the run game, just like the pass game. But that's how it works. Again, in games like that, you can be 1 play away, 1 guy away, 1 block away. That's football. So what matters is the success that you're having. So 1 block away ain't gonna get it done.
Bill Landis.
Ryan, as you guys are sorting through the changes on your offensive staff, who was calling plays last night and who will call plays on the 31st?
Yeah. So Brian was calling it, but we're all involved. All of us. We try to give as much input as we can, and try to organize the thoughts and try to help the best we can, and we'll continue to do that. I do think having more time to prepare for this game will allow us to be more efficient. There's no question about that. But Brian calls the plays, and we'll continue to call the plays. But we're gonna have everybody involved with it, and it's a group effort.
Stefan Kreisny.
Just to follow up on that a little bit, you mentioned kind of the structure of what it's gonna look like with Brian the next 3 weeks and how, keeping him as involved. How much will he be here for every practice, everything that goes on? Will he be in Columbus? Will he be kind of back and forth? What's that balance kind of look like?
Yep, so we talked about that this morning. He'll be down there this week, some, and then he'll look to get back and sort of dive into the game plan with us. You know, we'll be working on that while he's down there this week, and then just kind of see, you know, how the next couple of weeks play out. And I think that when he's here, he is going to be locked in on. He's made it clear that he wants to finish this the right way and be locked in here. He knows that is important for him. You know, certainly being a Buckeye and all the time he's spent here and what he's poured into this place matters to him. So, you know, when he goes down there, you know, he's got work to do down there. But when he gets here, he'll be locked in and doing his job here. And based on how the month goes, you know, we'll see how that plays into the game week and those types of things. But the good news, you know, at least for me, you know, is that I can spend a lot more time in the game plan now with having a little bit more lead time going into the game. And so, you know, we'll try to help as best I can.
Tony Girdman.
You mentioned last night, today you've got a pissed off team. What is the benefit of anger? I assume it gets them back quicker, but how far can you go with that?
It can be a little bit like a cleanse, you know. And, you can go through something like this, it rips open the scab on all the issues that are there, and there's nowhere to hide from. You got to address them. And some of the assumptions that you make, that you think are the right things, and all of a sudden come in and show up in a game like this, and all those warts show up right to the front and center. And so either they've been an issue that hasn't been addressed, or there's something that you made an assumption on that you were incorrect on. And here we are. And so there was some of those that showed up last night.
Far left, Joe Nugent.
With the bracket released this afternoon, just curious what your reaction is to being the 2 seed and going to Dallas.
Well, I think, you know, the committee recognized, you know, the body of work that we had this year, and you know, found ourselves in the fourth quarter fighting it out and against a good team last night. And so, you know, we're excited about where we are, and you know, going down to Dallas again, and you know, playing against some, you know, a really good opponent, either A&M or Miami, 2 really good teams. So, and then going from there, you know, and you know, when you look at the teams that are in the playoffs, I mean, some really good teams out there. So it doesn't matter really if you're the 1, 2, 3, or 4. I mean, you got to play from here on out. That's just how it goes. And so, you know, when I look at, you know, where Indiana is, when I look at where Georgia is, when I look where Texas Tech is, I mean, there's great teams. So excited about that, and now we have to be at our best.
Got time for 2 more. Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
Ryan, there were moments last night where it didn't seem like it's a game package. It still like it's still something that you like to do, that it would be a fit there. I guess where's your confidence at with that package there? Did you wish maybe you went to it at times?
Yeah, well, yes, because, you know, what we were doing didn't work. So then when you look back on it, you say, yeah, that's probably something we should have done. There is stuff that we have practiced and put in, and so yeah, because what we didn't work, and so we got to keep figuring out what will, what you know, what we need to do to score points. That's the bottom line. You know, whether it's throw it, whether it's be in different personnel groupings, all of those things are going to be considered to make sure we get the job done.
And we'll wrap up with Tim May.
Yeah, there are a few safer calls than a quarterback sneak, though. I mean, right? I mean, for the most part. And a couple times Julian's knee is touched and things like that. But are these tough times to go back and regurgitate what went on in that game? But some of them were very strange. There were holding calls that weren't made, etc. How do you put that all in a compartment and then move on?
Well, I think
you know what I mean by
yeah,
that.
I know exactly what you mean. I think the bottom line is, like, you can't leave it to one play. That's the bottom line, because you're right. When you start looking at a game like that, you can look to different things, and but at the end of the day, like, we were not at our best, and so you start to point to these 1 or 2 plays that made the difference in the game. Well, that's our fault. We can't let that happen. So you know, we didn't execute the sneak, and so, you know, that's on everybody. But then there were other opportunities that we could have converted on, and so, you know, that's what happens when you lose a game. You look at all these different things to figure out what didn't happen, and when you win games, some of those things get kind of, we talked about this before, right? Brushed under the rug, and you kind of move on. So we're going to take a hard look at everything, and you know, that sometimes, again, when you go through a loss, it just makes you look harder, longer at everything that you're doing.
And that the dust is settled. I mean, three of the top 5 teams in college football playoff rankings are from the Big Ten. What does that say about the appreciation you think the committee had for this league? Is that justified?
Yeah, I think when you look at the teams, when you look at, first off, you have 18 teams and some of the best teams in the country in this conference. And, we played 9 conference games. So I think when you just take those things into consideration, it's significant. But then I think when you look at the quality of the teams, it stands out.
Coach, thank you
Yeah,
very much.
thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.